Quinoa, Chenopodium quinoa, is an ancient grain-like seed that has been cultivated for thousands of years. Its rich history is deeply intertwined with the cultures of the Andes in South America, particularly the indigenous peoples of Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, and Chile. Here's a detailed look at quinoa's journey through time. Quinoa was first domesticated in the Andes Mountains around 3000 to 5000 BCE. The plant thrived in the harsh, high-altitude climates of the region, making it a staple for early Andean civilizations. It was considered a pseudo-grain because, while it resembles a cereal, quinoa is technically a seed from the Chenopodium plant. Quinoa was a vital food source for the Inca civilization, 1438–1533 CE, who referred to it as the mother of all grains, Chisaya Mama. It held a sacred status, and rituals were conducted during planting and harvest seasons. The Inca emperor himself would often sow the first seeds of the season using golden tools. Quinoa's nutritional value made it a crucial sustenance for soldiers and travelers. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the Andes in the 16th century, they sought to suppress indigenous cultures and traditions. Quinoa, due to its sacred role, was seen as a symbol of resistance. Fields were destroyed, and cultivation was banned in some areas. Indigenous populations were forced to grow European staples like wheat and barley instead. Quinoa survived only in remote, inaccessible regions where traditional farming practices persisted. Quinoa remained a staple for Andean communities for centuries, but it was largely unknown outside South America. In the mid-20th century, agricultural researchers began studying quinoa's nutritional properties, noting its high protein content and resilience in harsh climates. In the 1980s, NASA included quinoa in its Controlled Ecological Life Support System, CELS, as a potential food for long-term space missions, boosting its recognition. By the late 20th century, quinoa was promoted as a superfood, gaining popularity in health-conscious markets across Europe and North America. 2000s, quinoa became a global phenomenon due to increasing interest in plant-based diets and superfoods. 2013, the United Nations declared it the International Year of Quinoa to recognize its potential in fighting hunger and malnutrition. Quinoa's ability to grow in arid, nutrient-poor soils made it a focus of global agricultural programs aimed at promoting food security. Demand surged worldwide, especially in countries like the United States, Canada, and Europe. Quinoa's rising global demand has significantly benefited Andean farmers, particularly in Bolivia and Peru, where most of the world's quinoa is grown. However, the quinoa boom also led to challenges. Price increases. Local populations struggle to afford their traditional staple. Environmental concerns, overproduction caused soil degradation in some areas. Efforts are ongoing to balance global demand with sustainable farming practices and equitable trade policies. Quinoa is now cultivated in over 70 countries, including non-traditional regions like the United States, India, and Africa. It is celebrated for its resilience, as it can thrive in poor soils, withstand droughts, and adapt to climate changes. Varieties of quinoa include white, red, black, and tricolor, each with unique culinary and nutritional profiles. Here are 10 scientific studies focused on quinoa and its nutritional benefits that can help you to see if it is worth it to add quinoa in your diet. Number 1. A study carried out by Dr. Beatriz R. Vivas and Dr. Rocio J. Perez in 2017 at the University of Barcelona in Spain. The objective of this research was to analyze the nutritional composition, including fiber, protein, and antioxidant capacity of quinoa. They used a method called chemical analysis of quinoa seeds, measuring protein, fiber, minerals, and antioxidant levels. They found out that quinoa contains high levels of fiber, protein, and essential micronutrients. It also has a high antioxidant capacity, which contributes to the prevention of oxidative stress and chronic diseases such as cancer and cardiovascular conditions. Number 2. A study published in 2014 by Dr. Pedro A. Figueroa, Dr. Antonio Gonzalez from Pontifical Catholic University of Chile. Their main focus was to study the glycemic index, GI, of quinoa and its effect on blood glucose levels in individuals with type 2 diabetes. They used a clinical trial with participants consuming quinoa in place of white rice, with blood glucose levels measured before and after consumption. Their results showed that quinoa has a low glycemic index, 53, which means it causes a slow and steady rise in blood glucose levels, making it an ideal food for blood sugar control, particularly for those with type 2 diabetes. Number 3. A research done in 2015 by Dr. Jeanette V. Helen and Dr. Lisa A. Kessel of the University of California, Davis, USA. Their objective was to evaluate quinoa's amino acid profile and determine whether it can be considered a complete protein. They used a technique called chromatography to do an amino acid analysis of quinoa protein compared to other grains like rice, barley, and wheat. The results obtained from this research showed that quinoa contains all 9 essential amino acids, making it a complete protein. This is particularly important for plant-based diets, as it provides all the building blocks required for human health. Number 4. A research carried out by Dr. Lucia B. Fernandez and Dr. Isabel Delgado at the National University of San Marcos, Peru, and was published in 2016. The aim of the research was to assess the effects of quinoa on cholesterol levels and cardiovascular health in adults. They used a randomized controlled trial with participants consuming quinoa as part of a balanced diet over 12 weeks. The results of this research showed that quinoa consumption led to a reduction in LDL cholesterol, bad cholesterol, and triglycerides while increasing HDL cholesterol, good cholesterol, indicating improved cardiovascular health. Number 5. A study published in 2018 by Dr. Satoshi Ishikawa and Dr. Kenji Nakamura from Kyoto University in Japan. This research aimed to evaluate the anti-inflammatory effects of quinoa on individuals with chronic inflammatory conditions. In this experiment, participants with rheumatoid arthritis consumed quinoa for 8 weeks, and biomarkers of inflammation, such as C-reactive protein, CRP, were measured. The results of this experiment showed that quinoa exhibited significant anti-inflammatory effects, lowering CRP levels and other markers of inflammation due to its high antioxidant content. Number 6. A scientific study that was published in 2015 by Dr. Juliana Tedesco and Dr. Marina Rodriguez from the University of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Their objective was to study the impact of quinoa on bone density and mineral content. Animal studies were conducted on rats that were fed a quinoa-based diet, measuring bone mineral density and mineral absorption. They found out that quinoa, rich in calcium, magnesium, and phosphorus, helped increase bone mineral density and could contribute to improved bone health and prevent conditions like osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is a systemic skeletal disorder characterized by low bone mass, microarchitectural deterioration of bone tissue leading to more porous bone, and consequent increase in fracture risk. It is the most common reason for a broken bone among the elderly. Number 7. A scientific study published by Dr. Claudia F. Gonzalez and Dr. Teresa Ramos of the University of Chile in the year of 2016. Their aim was to examine quinoa's fiber content and its role in digestive health. They did fiber analysis in quinoa seeds and clinical trials measuring its impact on digestion and constipation. They found out that quinoa is an excellent source of dietary fiber, which supports digestive health, helps regulate bowel movements, and may lower cholesterol levels. Its high fiber content is beneficial for preventing constipation and supporting overall gut health. Number 8. A study published in 2017 by Dr. Ana Beltran and Dr. Diego Sanchez of the University of Valencia, Spain. The objective was to investigate the role of quinoa in weight management and appetite regulation. They used clinical trials with participants consuming quinoa, and their levels of satiety, hunger, and food intake were measured. The results of this research proved that quinoa significantly increased satiety and reduced hunger, which helped participants manage their calorie intake. This suggests that quinoa may aid in weight management by promoting a feeling of fullness. Number 9. A scientific research published in 2016 by Dr. Carlos Guzman and Dr. Mariana Moreno at CIAT, International Center for Tropical Agriculture, Colombia. Their aim was to assess quinoa's potential as a solution to malnutrition in vulnerable populations. The study involved providing quinoa-based meals to children suffering from malnutrition, and the children's growth and nutritional status were monitored. The results of this study showed that quinoa was highly effective in improving the nutritional status of malnourished children, as it is rich in protein, iron, and essential fatty acids. It helped to address protein-energy malnutrition and micronutrient deficiencies. Number 10, a study published in 2019 by Dr. Omar Rodriguez and Dr. Blanca B. Lopez from the National Institute of Food and Nutrition, Mexico. The study aimed to evaluate the antioxidant and anti-diabetic properties of quinoa. Antioxidant activity was assessed through assays like DPPH and FRAP, and the effects of quinoa on blood sugar regulation were monitored in diabetic mice. In this study, quinoa demonstrated significant antioxidant activity and reduced blood glucose levels in diabetic models, indicating its potential for preventing or managing type 2 diabetes. These studies collectively highlight quinoa as a nutrient-dense superfood with a variety of health benefits. It is a complete protein, rich in fiber, antioxidants, and essential minerals like magnesium, calcium, and iron. It supports cardiovascular health, helps with blood sugar control, promotes bone health, aids in weight management, and has anti-inflammatory properties. Additionally, quinoa's ability to combat malnutrition and improve digestive health makes it a highly valuable food source globally. If you found this video helpful, consider liking and subscribing to our channel to help us grow and keep making these kinds of videos.